Hi everyone, I thought I'd give a little talk through about how TikTok has really changed the way that people listen to and how people create music. So, I never thought I'd be the kind of person who discovered music through a short content video app, but here we are. TikTok hasn't just taken over social media, it's changed the way that we find, listen to, and think about music. I used to actively avoid the app, which is a bit shameful considering where this is going to be posted, but it's currently my biggest goldmine for finding artists that I would have never discovered otherwise. A few years ago, Spotify Discover or recommendations from friends or like YouTube music video rabbit holes used to be the main way that people find music. For me, I found a video of like a Japanese city pop artist on YouTube, and that started a huge sort of rabbit hole for me to find other Japanese city pop and even just to know of its existence, you know? And TikTok, which I know I'm not alone, especially Gen Zers, people are hearing songs for the first time not through albums or music videos, but through dance trends or relatable skits. For example, Fleet Macwood's Dreams revival, thanks to that skateboarding ocean spray video. It used to be such a huge song, you know, back when it was released, but it sort of dies down, as most music does, you know. As people grow older and new generations come about, music in the way that it's sort of consumed is entirely different. Trends change, opinions change, especially how music is written. Another example would be Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill becoming the song of 2022 thanks to Stranger Things and those emotional TikTok edits. It's so insane to hear music that I used to listen to as a kid that I thought was, you know, like vintage music, now coming up and being like a massive source of content for a lot of people. And TikTok does this very interesting thing where it doesn't reflect trends, it actually creates them. The algorithm can turn a completely unknown track into a global hit overnight. A good example of this would be Doja Cat's Say So blowing up because of a dance challenge. You know, my For You page was flooded for weeks, and then eventually that trickled into Instagram, which it just became oversaturated with this content. And TikTok doesn't care if you're famous. It cares if you can be viral, if you can be clickable, if you can be relatable. It wants you to be exactly what everyone else wants to be. And this has ultimately changed how songs are written. Hooks have to hit instantly or people just scroll away. And that turns into music being made for TikTok. Artists are writing with viral potential in mind. You know, they have short intros, quick hooks, trend-friendly lyrics. They start with a chorus. And they have very short style songs. You know, most songs now barely reach up to 3 minutes. A good example of this would be Pink Pantheress. Her songs are barely over 2 minutes. They're lo-fi, dreamy, nostalgic, which is super perfect for TikTok loops. And other genres like hyperpop and bedroom pop, they thrive because they sort of hit that sort of emotional, relatable, personable sort of feeling. They don't feel polished. They don't feel complete. They sort of feel like an extension of the artist, which a lot of people are looking for. People love relatability, which is also a crazy thing that has changed in music because we didn't know the artists that were performing. Back in and this was before I was born, but let's say like the 80s or the 90s, we didn't truly know the artists. You know, they didn't have social media accounts. They didn't, you know, post about what they were eating for breakfast in the morning, or they didn't talk about their days or post photos of them while they were out. They were just musicians, you know, followed by paparazzi, and they lived a completely separate life from us. So music nowadays has sort of shifted into this very relatable sort of flip-flop of how things are, and TikTok really can launch artists overnight. And in a great way, this does make music feel a lot more accessible. You know, you don't need a label, you just need a song, a phone, and a lot of luck. Lil Nas X, Old Town Road, started as like a massive meme, and it became the song everywhere, including like the unlimited amount of remixes that were created of it. And the flip side, though, of this, as much as it's so fantastic that music is much more accessible to the common person, artists aren't just musicians now. They're influencers, marketers, and full-time content creators, which does take away from the initial act of you're writing music because you love it, rather than you're writing music so it can be seen. and this allows a lot of our songs to feel very formulaic. They're built for TikTok rather than just being written in inspiration. The lifespan is much shorter. 1 week, a track's everywhere. The next week, it's forgotten. People seem to forget how quickly people move on from trends, how quickly people move on to the next big thing, the next better thing. And the short form content has really exacerbated that. It's become, okay, I've watched this, I was obsessed with it for a week, now I'm moving on to the next thing that I'm going to become obsessed with, and that cycle repeats and repeats and repeats. And artists risk being labelled as TikTok artists, which can make it a lot harder to have a long-term career. There's a lot less sustainability when it comes into sort of listening to music or creating music that is to be listened to. It's just not as sustainable as, I don't know, working through an artist or working through collaborations or working through people. Now, I personally don't feel any change in how I listen to music. I do use it for discoveries of artists because it's such a wonderful place to find smaller artists in comparison to them not being boosted on Spotify. I don't listen to music differently. I'm still a long-term listener. I'll listen to the whole song. But it really has made me think about why I'm listening to these musics. What makes me so intrigued by it? What makes me feel so connected? And I don't know if this is a phase or if it's just the new normality of the music industry. And TikTok has made music much more interactive, emotional, but this is for the better and for the worse. You know, there are always upsides and downsides to every single thing that we consume, but it's really important to be recognizant of those things so you can understand how they interact with you. But I have found music that I love, artists that I follow religiously, and sort of, I guess, like an insight into how music can be very, very properly used to create virality. So I guess my biggest question would be for you guys is, how does this make you feel? Do you feel like you have like a complete control over the music you like? Or do you feel like sometimes you are ultimately convinced into liking something because you've heard it so often? Do you think that it's changed how you view music? Do you think it's changed how you listen to music? Do you prefer shorter form content? Do you love a shorter song? Or are you a fan of, for example, like Michael Jackson songs that are 8 minutes and onwards? How do you connect with your music, and what does it actually mean for you? And I hope you sort of like this and you enjoy my little commentary, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye.